Everything you were taught about time is fundamentally incomplete. Right now, your deepest biological mechanisms are operating on an internal clock that defines how you experience reality itself. It is not just electrical chatter. It's a sophisticated dance of intrinsic pacemaker networks firing in perfect temporal alignment deep within the brainstem and beyond. Think of these subcortical rhythms like waves in the ocean. When they stop being random splashes and start locking into coherent phase, something massive happens. That synchronized timing is what gives rise to those profound states. That feeling of unity or timelessness we call aeon. We are looking at how physics manifests as pure subjective experience through biological synchronization. We often think deep states are about intense thought, but the data suggests they are fundamentally rooted in rhythm. Imagine your entire internal system acting like a massive orchestra that doesn't need a conductor. It just starts humming together naturally. This is what researchers observe with phase locking. Specific pacemaker networks across your brain begin firing at perfectly synchronized moments. When these deep rhythms lock into coherent patterns, the subjective experience of time and self shifts dramatically. It isn't magic, it is precise biological entrainment operating in real time, governing how integrated our consciousness truly is. What if coherent reality isn't something we perceive at all, but rather how our most ancient neural clocks keep time? Think of your brain not as a computer running software, but as an immense orchestra where individual cells are drummers and violists. The deep rhythms, the slow beats from subcortical structures, are the conductor. When they lock phase with each other, it's like all instruments finally hitting one perfect note, creating that unified feeling of timelessness or synchronicity. It is not just a good mood, it's physics happening inside you. This temporal locking is how your brain organizes reality into something meaningful instead of random noise. But if these deep clocks can sync up for transcendent states, which means something nobody expected for the mechanics of simple everyday attention, what happens when that synchronization breaks? We've talked about individual rhythms, but what if your entire mind is actually one massive synchronized orchestra? Imagine countless separate clocks inside you all suddenly ticking together in perfect unison across vast distances in your brain. That's phase locking at work. It suggests that the deep structures of our nervous system are capable of something akin to a universal conversation. This state researchers link conceptually to what some call nous or universal mind. Your subjective experience isn't just happening inside. It's part of an integrated resonance pattern. Yet some studies question whether coherence alone is enough for consciousness to truly feel unified. Who knows the full picture? The mechanisms driving that ultimate connection are even stranger than we imagine, and they rely on something far more ancient. Imagine your brain isn't running a series of separate programs, but one massive piece of evolving music. That rhythm is controlled by the deepest structures, not the usual thinking parts you monitor every day. When these hidden internal clocks begin to lock together, something radical happens to how you perceive time itself. It shifts from linear seconds into something vast and coherent. Think of it like a perfect chorus where every instrument starts at exactly the right microsecond in relation to everything else. This is temporal phase locking occurring across your intrinsic pacemaker networks. The signal fires, but what allows this global unity, this state that feels eternal or universally shared, is tied to how our neuromodulatory centers talk to each other. And understanding that conversation changes everything about self. We used to think consciousness was like a bright spotlight focused on the surface, driven entirely by complex thought loops happening up top in your cortex. But what if that's fundamentally backward? What if these deep, rhythmic pulses, the ones generated below where you are actively thinking, aren't just background noise? They might be setting the very rhythm of reality for us. Imagine a massive orchestra. We assume the musicians create the music? But perhaps there is an invisible metronome ticking in some primal core that dictates every single tempo change and shift into unity. That deep timing, what we call temporal phase locking, doesn't just correlate with feeling integrated. It might be the mechanism itself. If those intrinsic pacemakers are dictating our perception of time, of ion, then where does their fundamental pattern originate? What if the true nature of our awareness doesn't happen in the brilliant front part of your brain at all? What if it originates deeper down in a network of ancient intrinsic timers ticking silently beneath conscious thought? Imagine deep-sea tidal patterns governing vast oceanic movements not through external forces but from internal resonance. That's what we are looking at here. When these non-cortical rhythms achieve perfect temporal phase locking, they create unified states of being that seem impossible to explain linearly. The physical physics of this synchronization suggests a biological anchor for unity experiences. But if the timing is so fundamental, is it purely involuntary, or can we deliberately influence those deepest anchors? The deep rhythm of your brain isn't just noise, it is the conductor for coherence itself. When intrinsic pacemaker networks synchronize their timing, when these hidden rhythms lock into phase, it creates moments of profound integration, what some call timelessness or synchronicity. Think of it like a massive orchestra finally playing in perfect harmony after chaos. That unified state of deep resonance is where true self-organization happens inside you. The takeaway? Start noticing the shifts in your internal pacing when stress hits versus when calm settles. Map those anchors. Your capacity for coherent experience hinges on this biological timing. If you want to map these intrinsic temporal anchors, the full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com. The rhythm isn't just happening in your conscious thought, it's anchored deeper down. Think of global coherence like tuning multiple independent clocks so they tick together perfectly. That synchronized state is where true integrated experience resides, what researchers call temporal phase locking. It suggests that when our deepest biological rhythms align, we access something closer to unity itself. To begin noticing this shift, pay close attention not just to your thoughts, but the quiet hum of internal sensation as it changes tempo. That subtle regulatory beat is your signal for a deeper state transition occurring beneath the noise. The full research archive is at jmthomasofficial.com.